Okay. So, next time start. 15. Call the February 27th board meeting work session to order. First on the agenda is the pledge led by our finance director, Doug Beaudry tonight.
To the flag of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Beaudry. All right. Yes. First thing, has anybody got any questions or comments or anything about the consent agenda? Okay, anything about the agenda? Not, we'll work it out as we go through it here. Visitors recognition, that's all tomorrow night?
Thursday
right?
night.
Thursday night. Building program update.
All right. Mr. Lee, you want to go over our building program update?
Yes, sir. What you have before you and what was published on the website as part of the agendas are updated, proposed building program that we're requesting you guys to look at and possibly vote on Thursday night. The first items that we see there are the land purchases. 2 have already been made. 1 is still to be made. We have 1 project that's presently under construction, which is the Rock Springs Elementary School that's coming along well. We could get it to quit raining for a day or 2. We'll get a roof on it. We'll really get going. But it's on schedule for August the 20th. Below that, you see 3 items that we're proposing for next year, which would be started this year for opening in 2021. The restrooms and the concession stands for Laverne High and Smyrna High are still on there. We have elementary school at Tan Oaks. Until we have an official name, we're going to use the name Tan Oaks because that's the property we bought it from. And we're requesting an annex addition to Laverne Middle School. That school is presently overcrowded. They have about 10 portables at this time. They're requesting additional portables. They need some relief in a bad way. So we're similar to what we did at Oakland. We're asking for a middle school at Laverne. The next year, you'll see that we're asking for...
Mr. Lee, can I stop real quick?
Yes, sir.
Go back to the 10 Oaks. We already have allocated money for the site and the design plan. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. If you look to the right column in the blue, it has $10 million approved for the site. When we went to the Health and Ed Commission and Budget and Finance to get the money approved to purchase the site, at that time they went ahead and approved $10 million for us to begin the site work as soon as possible. If you look down through there, we've got $5.5 million in the elementary, Tan Oaks Middle, $7.2 million, and then we would eventually have a high school somewhere down through there. We don't know how far that's out. It'd be another 6 or 7, but we're going to develop the grading and the mass grading for all of the site because it's cheaper for us to do that now. But we'll only do the water and the paving and the same things that are associated with the elementary. We won't actually build the roads to the middle school or build the roads to the high school, but we'll actually go ahead and grade them like we've done at Stewart's Creek and Rockville, those kind of things in the past. Then we seed and straw it and let it sit till we're ready to build. But that's why we have $10 million set over there to the side to begin the site grading. We would hope that we can get the land on the west side, which will allow us to build a middle school. I know there'd been need there, but I don't think the process is going to allow us to start that school this year, so that's why we think we need the elementary. Then for 2023, we're tentatively proposing a middle school out at the Matthews property on 231 and an elementary school on the 840-96 corridor. For 24, we're proposing Tan Oaks Middle and an elementary school for anticipated growth. At this time, we don't know exactly where that location would be. And then we would be looking to start in August of 24, also to have a school open in August of 26, a high school. We think by that time we'll be ready for another high school. All of this adds up present day dollars to $381,573 $573,828. I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
If we start on Tan Oaks, when would we be able to start building on it?
The design is complete at this time. The only thing that's not complete is the off-site sewer design. We should have that in the next 4 to 5 weeks, but that won't prevent us from going ahead and going out for bid. If you all vote on this Thursday night and approve it, then we would take it to Health and Ed next month. I think I'm going to talk to Health and Ed tonight because we've already got the $10 million allocated for site approval to see if they would let us go ahead and put the job out for bid prior to their final approval of the program. And if that's the case, then we would probably be looking at putting it out for bid in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Pretty quick, yeah.
Yes, sir. We have a lot of site work. We have the roadways we need to build over to Hoover's Gap. There's a little more to this site than there is to some because it's a 3-school site.
So there's no motion on here, so would the motion be to approve this plan?
I think that's what you want to do, discuss it, and then if you guys want to put it on for a motion, we can make a motion on Thursday night. We can put a motion on our agenda.
Well, we're missing this year building a school, right?
Yes, sir. We've already missed this year. Rock Springs Elementary is an addition. That's the only thing we have right under construction presently. Yes, sir. So that answer your question, we've skipped a year.
That's my concern is I don't see how we're going to make it up. We're not building 2 schools in 1 year. Normally we try to build a middle school and an elementary school to make up ground, but we're putting additions in instead of building schools.
Yes, sir.
I don't see how we're going to catch up, and that concerns me with the amount of growth we got coming in this county.
I don't disagree, but the need for the addition at Laverne, I don't know that we would get an elementary, a middle, and then the annex at Laverne Middle all at the same time. I don't think the county commission would ever go for that.
How much, I think we've talked about this, but for the addition and the elementary school, what are we talking about? In 57 million?
With everything with the site, because it would be 68 million.
Now, this wouldn't include Tan Oaks because we've already been allocated I'm talking about the additional, to build it, because we've already got allocation for the site work.
Yes, sir. So we take that away, if we take the 10 million that's already been approved away from what we're projecting the cost to be, it would be 58 million additional than what we've already gotten approved by the commission is 10 million. We're asking for an additional 58 million.
When would we be able to open Tan Oaks?
21, August of 21. So we would start this year and open it next year.
Wow. That's quick.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Okay. Any comments on it?
What if we considered doing 2 additions with a school build in '21 and then look at building 2 schools in '22 to try to help catch up on our schools? In other words, move at Roy Waldron up to '21. Then move at middle school on 231 North Side up maybe to go with the other middle school in '22.
You know, I think you might be onto something. I think what we can do there is, now keep in mind, we can move this stuff up as we get further into this school year and start looking at projected. We'll have some hard numbers here pretty soon, will we not? What, sometime April? Late April?
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lee. All right, facilities.
Facilities found on tab 3. You can see those.
Central Magnet.
Central Magnet, engineering construction, along with purchasing the bid for the HVAC renovations for Central Magnet on January 7th of 2020. The only bid that came in, it was over budget, and since that time, engineering construction, along with Harpeth Park Engineering, has vetted the contractor and met with them to review potential cost reductions. At the time, we have revised the scope to reflect a base bid of $3,144,550. Capital Projects has $2,120,000 left allocated for this fiscal year for the project, and since they will be phased over 2 fiscal years, we'd like to approve the project for the funds available and include the balance in next year's capital projects to complete this project. This project will not be completed until August of 2021, and this bid process is allowed through Tennessee Code Annotated Section 49-2-203A3.
How much was it over bid?
Our budget was $2.5 million, and it came in a little over $4 million. It's a lot of things have gone up since we put the budget together, and the economy is such that there's a lot of projects out there that are a lot easier. Building new construction, this job is a tough job. Central Magnet is a tough project. And with us continuing to use the building, they're going to be predominantly working at night, weekends, holidays, and shutdowns, and those kind of things, which increased the price some. And we had also condensed the schedule. So by allowing them a little bit longer to do the work, we were able to reduce some cost, take out a lot of overtime. So we're getting basically the same project. We just reworked it a little bit and got the price down to $3.1 million. And we can't get it all done in 1 year anyway. And I think we discussed that back when we were doing capital projects last year, that it was going to bleed over into a couple of years, and that we put $2.5 million in there, which we ended up using $380,000 at Blackman High. That's why we only have $2.1 million left. So I'm proposing, or what we're proposing, is to authorize the $2.1 million. We'll put the balance in this coming year's capital projects, and we will write them amendment to their contract, which will complete the project during that year.
Go through and take us through the HVAC system as we're using that while we're actually having kids within the school.
Right now, what we have is a central loop system. It's a cooling tower and chillers. Central magnets either heat or air. They don't have the option of doing both at one time. They only have one or the other. So with that being the case, that's an entire school system. In other words, you can't take a portion of it away because it affects the rest of the school. The system that we're putting in is a VAV system, which allows us to put things in sections, and it's more economical. So what we're proposing to do is work in quadrants of the building at a time. Once we get that new system up and running, then we'll take out the old, and we'll do the next system. So we can phase the work so that we can leave the existing system alone, bring up sections of the building with the new system, and when we get to the end, it's all finished. The other thing that's kind of just going to take some planning is there's a lot of, there is some asbestos that we'll have to deal with, and we'll need to strategically work those areas when school is out, and that also comes into play with the phasing of the new system.
Okay, any questions? All right.
Mr. Estes, before you go forward, there's another piece of paper that's not part of your agenda, but I wanted to bring it to you tonight just for your information. It's last year's capital projects list. You will be seeing this at our next meeting for you guys to vote on for budget amendments. Part of that budget amendments, you're going to see the 380 for Blackman's been moved. And if you look at this, what you see and highlighted in yellow is items where we have moved money from one category to the other. We haven't added any projects. I'll bring your Eagleville, the roofing. We had budgeted $476,990. Well, the actual bid came in at $488,990. So we were a little bit short there, so we had some other areas in capital projects where we were able to save a little bit of money. So Mr. Beaudry will be bringing to you the budget amendments where we've moved that money from one item to another, which is typical. If you look at gym floors, Blackman High and Wilson Elementary weren't on the original list. They were on the list for this coming year, but our floors came in a little cheaper this year, and we had a little extra money, so we're asking to go ahead and do a couple of schools that were slated for next year this year. Same, it's all the same. We're just getting a couple of them ahead because we had a little money left. We're not spending it somewhere else. It'll be on gym floors. One thing you'll notice is that, and I wanted to call you out, the McFadden elevator, we had $75,000 there. That project was actually completed the year before. And somewhere between Mr. Sandvik and myself, it got carried over. So we didn't have a McFadden elevator project. So we're reallocating those funds, which were already there. Most of those funds are coming down to the renovation repurpose project, which is the old Smyrna Library that we're turning into the PD Center on the north end. So this is for your review and for your information. I'll probably discuss it a little bit tonight at Health and Ed. We're not looking for a vote, but I did want you to have ample time to look at it because we do talk about capital projects quite a bit, so that when we come to our next meeting, this will be on there for your vote.
Do you have any questions on that? All right. Let's move on to textbooks, number 10.
All right, Dr. Sullivan's going to go over an update on our K-12 ELA textbook adoption process.
Thank you. So one of the requests that was made last year that I overheard was just more updates throughout the textbook adoption process. So I wanted to give you kind of an update of where we are in that process. When we think about our vision statement about empowered teachers and effective curriculum, that second one is is what the textbook adoption process is really about. We have not had an English language arts adoption in Tennessee since 2010. Since then, we have had 2 standard shifts or revisions, and we are, quite frankly, as a state or as a district, not giving our teachers the materials that they need to be successful. You know, they are spending time on Teachers Pay Teachers and Pinterest and using a 10-year-old textbook trying to come up with a curriculum instead of truly focusing on the needs of their students. And so I'm going to go over some basics, but really just keep in mind that no adoption is perfect. We're always going to, no vendor is perfect. The state vendor list was approved in November, and that state vendor list, when they applied for that, a lot of those textbook companies write them for larger states. And so where the work really comes down to is the instructional guides that our teachers, specialists, coaches, and administrators are going to be working on after we actually have an ELA textbook adopted. And so when we think about where we are right now, we did applications in August for our textbook adoption committee. That was posted in September. You all approved them on October 24th. Those are all non-paid teachers volunteering their time. It is truly amazing to see how much time that they put in. They have numerous textbook awareness sessions, and they are here till 6 and 7 o'clock a couple times a month, just truly trying to vet what these processes are. So we had our committee approved on October 24th. The first meeting, Mr. Spurlock and myself talked to all of the committee members to talk to them about how important this adoption process is. As a county where our literacy rates kind of are, just to give you an idea, it's done this trend statewide, but in 2012-13, for our proficiency rate for kids on grade level as a district, we were at 62.3%. Currently, we are at 39.2%. And so that's a 20% drop. That is very much in line. We actually did not drop as much as the state has with the new standard shifts. In grades 9 through 12, in 2012-13, it was at 63.8, and now it's at 43.7. And so we do have to look and see that what we are providing our teachers is outdated and is not working to meet the needs of our students.
I think a couple of things there too. The rigor of the standards increased, and we did not, the instructional materials did not align with the rigor of the standards.
So where we are at each grade level, so we had our first oath. The teachers took their oath on November 4th before the state even approved the adopted list. So we had our first meeting before we knew what the adopted list would be. That was released on November 15th. We had a state-led training with the coordinators and ELA specialists on December 3rd for our cohort. Elementary school, middle school, and high school each had awareness sessions November, December, and January. Elementary school went with 6 that they looked at originally. January that did awareness sessions for them. In January, February, used the state screening tool to be down to 3. They right now have EL, which is expeditionary learning. It used to be referred to as EL, CKLA, Amplify, and then Benchmark is their top 3. They are meeting right now actually at the PD Center, and so they are going to probably be narrowing that down even further. The teachers on the committee were asked to teach from one of those 3 across the committee and provide strengths and weaknesses back to the committee. Middle school had, November 12th was their first official meeting. They had 8 awareness sessions. So they met in January, February, and moved to adopt their top 4. They reviewed their top 2 are McGraw-Hill and Amplify. One thing I did want to draw to your attention, though, is that Amplify CKLA gets a lot of attention right now in the legislature. Amplify is a nonprofit company that partnered with CKLA for a K-5 adoption. Their Amplify 6-8 is not connected with that same entity. They're their own 6-8 portion. High school, then we get to English 1 through 4. They considered 5. Each publisher presented on separate nights in November, December, January again. The committee narrowed it down to 3. They are now down to 2 between Pearson and McGraw-Hill. And so we are now to the point of looking at all of our textbooks for one last time before we bring anything else to the board. But I did want to just give you an update of kind of where we are in that process.
Anyone have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman, please. Dr. Sullivan, tell me again the grade bands on those 2 sets of numbers. The first one was it K through 8? Or?
It was K-5.
K-5, okay.
K-5. What was difficult for the K-5 with the state approval list, they only approved certain vendors for certain grade levels. And so there was one vendor I know for Scholastic that was only approved for one grade level. You know, we have a K-5. We don't want to split up our adoption to a fourth grade teacher has Scholastic, a fifth grade teacher is using, I'll just throw out examples, Benchmark. We wanted to provide that. So those were ones that, even though there may be more than 6 that were approved by the state, there weren't many more than that. But even though we looked at 6, that was why the middle and high school had more options. So elementary was 6, middle school was 8, and high school was 5.
Okay, so the second set of
K-5.
numbers, was that 6 through 12
Yeah,
then?
K-5 had 6, 6-8 had 8 that they looked at, and then 9-12 looked at 5.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Okay.
Okay.
We're working on meal prices, I guess.
Yeah, we are. The State Department of Ed did a review of our school nutrition program. One of the findings was the cost of the adult meal. We're going to phase it in over time in order to make sure it wasn't a big jump, although to me, $3.80 is a pretty good price for a meal. But make a long story short, because of this, we need to start immediately with that 30% increase, which will raise the price of the adult meal from $3.50 to $3.80.
Where are we with the students now? How much-
Yes, ma'am, we're going to go over that. In fact, let's see. Currently, I think you can, you had that on your agenda. When we look at our student debt for lunches, and I don't know if this includes Oakland Middle School, does this include their?
That was, when I
Prior
ran
to,
that report,
right?
it was right before
Yeah.
the anonymous donation.
Yeah, well, actually, if you look at the schools and you look at the student and the adult, and the total cost at that time was $218,883.46 for the students and $2,804.94 for the adults. However, last week there was an anonymous donor that cleared the student charges for Oakland Middle. So that one definitely is coming off. We've had discussions with our principals. We've talked about looking at those that are actually making some headway in reducing these charges. And quite frankly, Doug and I have talked about it. And this next thing we'll talk about is not much, but I applaud Mr. Beaudry for looking at this.
Okay. Any more questions on that one?
My question was, how much is the meal for the students?
Student meal?
Student meal,
I believe it's still $250.
$250 it is.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's still $250.
Okay, the second one there.
Okay, this is what Mr. Beaudry found, what he was looking on that website. But anyway, what we have is the resolution to request unclaimed property from the Tennessee Department of Treasury, Division of Unclaimed Property. The School Department of Budget and Finance recently searched for unclaimed funds due to the name of Rutherford County Board of Education, as well as the names of the individual schools of our school system. In your board packet, you'll find that formal resolution to request $3,908.56 for unclaimed property that was identified through this search, and it's broken down by schools.
How did we lose that much money? I don't guess that's a lot, but
It's some money we can get back. I would assume it would be. How would you would that be some kind of a check or?
Yes, sir. Once this county school board votes on this resolution, then I've got a letter prepared right here, and we'll just request it, and they'll send a check down.
I think how would this accumulate? What would be some of the things that?
A lot of things would be like a refund or a credit memo that would go to the school, and literally the check was lost, or you know, the company had an outstanding check on their books made out to like an individual school, and it never was cashed. And after a year, you know, businesses just like our county is required to go through and say, okay, this is unclaimed property by state law. At that point, they would send that up to the state treasurer, who would put that into the account for whatever the individual school was that you know, unclaimed property was given for.
I don't guess the state pays interest on that, do they?
That's why I'm trying to get it down as quick as possible. I will make an effort to make sure that you see this. The county requests all unclaimed property on the county side each year, and I'll make a point that this resolution comes in front of this board each year.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Spurlock?
Yes, sir.
It's the meal prices, current meal prices for Ms. Sharp, she's wanting, is $2.75 for K through 5 and $3 K through 12. That's if they pay 100%, no reduced.
I mean, if they pay 100%, but if they get a reduced, it's less, obviously.
Yes, sir. That's full price.
Okay, the third one there. Tennessee Department of Education Governor's Civic Seal Grant.
Yeah, this Tennessee Department of Education Governor Seal Grant, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee and Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn recently awarded 21 Governor Civic Seal mini grants promoting lifelong civic engagement in schools and districts across the state. The grants will be used for the 2020-2021 school year to fund programs that include promoting lifelong civic engagement by providing access to high-quality, standard-based civic resources. Smyrna High School was awarded one of these grants for the amount of $10,000.
Good thing. Any questions on that? Okay, let's discuss John Coleman Annex.
All right, John Coleman Annex. I think the prior discussion that we had on John Coleman Annex had to do with ways to use it. It was brought up that the alternative schools, which have increased capacity, we've got 2, and we've increased over the years at least 15 to 16,000. And I think that there were some concerns about that, so we went back and we kind of looked at some things that we could perhaps use it for, but at the same time make it a little bit more appetizing, if you will, or more appealing. So what we looked at is our voluntary pre-K. Currently at our voluntary pre-Ks, we have several schools on the north end of the county that have approximately together, collectively, about 200 pre-K students. That'd be 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. These are voluntary. We looked at if we move some of these voluntary pre-K classes to the John Coleman Annex, it would alleviate overcrowding at Cedar Grove by two classrooms. We would recapture 2 classrooms there. David Urey, we would get 1 classroom. Laverne Primary, 2 classrooms. Rock Springs Elementary, we would get 1 classroom. Smyrna Elementary, we would get 2 classrooms. Stewartsboro, we would get 1 classroom. Smyrna Primary, we would get 1 classroom. And Rocky Fork Elementary, we'd get 1 classroom. That would be 11 classrooms throughout that area down there that would provide a little bit more room for additional growth over the next year or so. We would use the annex, possibly 11 rooms, maybe 12. There would be some, there would be some things that we would do to prepare for that. Also, we would also like at nighttime, and obviously not using these classrooms, but at nighttime, move our adult ed from where it's currently located here, over in our area buildings over there, move them down here and give us more capacity in this building right here by moving all non-instructional resources, with the exception of Mr. Bowdry's department over there. and also bring our food service from the annex, the John Coleman Annex, down here so that Mr. Beaudry and Mr. Smith can work more closer together.
Will they need that cafeteria that's there? Will they still use that?
Yes, ma'am, they can
It's
use
very-
that.
It's very nice.
It is nice.
It's very nice.
And then John Coleman would be the one that would provide the meals.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great equipment there.
Okay, any more questions on that? Would that, if we move the adult ed there, how many rooms would that take up?
How many rooms does adult ed take up? It's a lot. They're taking up a lot more than they actually need here. I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Because those are pretty good sized classrooms at John Coleman. And one other thing, getting back on the alternative schools, and so that the alternative schools think we haven't forgotten them. Dr. Sullivan and I have had a deep talk, and I've actually talked to some principals. We would be looking at some things, perhaps maybe to alleviate the overcrowding in our alternative schools by doing, and it would be based on the infractions. Something that's not very egregious, keeping them on their own school site. That would provide, it would help us in several ways. If you look at the per pupil expenditure for alternative schools, you know, whereas we're somewhere around $9,900 per student, in a alternative school, you're investing somewhere over $20,000 per student, because you got a smaller class, but you're paying the same for your teacher, your instructor. So we're looking at something like that. So I don't want the alternative school to think we're forgetting them, because we do have some serious challenges at Daniel McKee as far as the facility is concerned. And then at Smyrna West, we have, I think, 6 portables or something like that. Very, very challenging there too. So we're going to kind of look at some things. You know, it'll be a process on how we can alleviate the overcrowding of the alternative school, at the same time maintaining that structure of discipline within our schools.
Any questions on that?
Mr. Spurlock, if I may, I know we get a BEP, and then there's an additional funding for special needs or SPED. Is there, for the alternative school, do we get any additional money for that?
No, ma'am. We just get the same ADM money that a regular kid, you know, would get. And if it's how that works is, you know, at an alternative school, normally you don't have 1 to 30 in high school. You're not going to have that many, thank goodness. And so, but we're still paying that teacher the same, you know. So that's where the cost runs into.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on here. Insurance.
We have a meeting on Thursday, and we'll have an update Thursday night.
Thank you. Director.
I'll have some on Thursday. We'll be kind of going over a little bit of this proposed early literacy program that's been pushed by the governor. Ms. Sharp sent out a connection today with Commissioner Swim was speaking to the Education Committee. I think there was a lot of concerns there, and we'll just kind of give a brief overview of that. I will tomorrow, or on Thursday, excuse me.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, Tennessee Legislature.
I'll have something Thursday.
Thank you. Ms. Sharp.
I'll have something Thursday. I heard on the way to Rutherford County today that Betsy DeVos was going to talk to Phil Valentine today at 5:30. So I'll be listening to that and see what she has to say.
Okay. Maybe good news, maybe not. Okay, general discussion? All right, thank everybody. And no more discussion, we're adjourned.